have an old radio here. I found these self-help tapes in the garbage, and I like self-help tapes because they're just so funkified. That chick looks hot. I would bang her. And so I found these in the garbage, and I want to listen to them because it says self-help, and that's the kind of shit that I like, just for fun. I don't know why. It's just funny. And they're cassettes, so I pulled out my only cassette player, and I was looking at it, and I realized that this cassette player is the one that I had when I was like 10. And so it doesn't work. I'm trying to fix it. And I got it to play, but it sounds horrible, so I'm gonna, while it's playing, I'm gonna tinker with it and try to make it sound better. And so we're gonna take cassette 1. Tape 1, side 2. Tape 1, side 1. Alright. Try to be a little patient. I'm going to be fixing a radio and listening to self-help. So you can listen to that. And I was thinking about making stuff like this. That's kind of why I want to listen to it, to see what something else like it sounds like, because I want to make something like it. So I'm probably gonna like make a video of all the things, because it's cool. I'll put it from audio, but I'll just be like sitting here chilling. But I'm gonna go ahead and play this.
To God, totally perfect. The Course says there's absolutely nothing you can do to change your essential being. You happen to be the only perfect image. It's like an eternal flame, you know, like Kennedy's grave, which is the eternal flame. That's a pretty major archetype. The eternal flame, the flame that does not go out. Well, the Course in Miracles says that the primary symbol of that is the flame of God's love, which does not go out. Even in someone like Hitler, the Course says if you think one person is left out of this, you're not getting the point. What the Course would say about someone like Hitler, for instance, is that the eternal flame of love cannot be extinguished, period. However, what has happened in a person like that is that it has been so covered over by thoughts that are not loving, and to such an extent that that eternal flame of love has, for all practical purposes, been extinguished. But the Course is even there, it's not totally extinguished. And God's attitude is not that people who do not come from God, i.e. do not come from loving thoughts, are sinners to be punished. The Course in Miracles says that whole notion, although it disguises itself as religious thinking, the Course says that's the ego mind talking, which is the mind opposed to the love of God within us. The Course in Miracles, you might remember that sin is an arbitrary term. It means you missed the mark. So the only real sin is loveless perception. What co-creation with God is, being aligned with God, being one with God, means thinking from love. Now, the Course in Miracles tells us that you and I have love within us. As I just said, all of us do. have that he and other enlightened masters no longer have are excuses why so-and-so doesn't deserve it. Right? So we come up with reasons not to come from our loving life. We are in the spirit. We are describing. We praise the loving thought, and therefore choose the Lord's perception. The Course in Miracles says God does not symbolize as something that we all
Come on, get down. Come on. Put it. Shut up, shut up, shut up.
So what the evil values tolerance? Why will we present to have the essentially the woman expressive tools of judging ourselves? When we see our mistakes, we do to ourselves what we do to other people. We go into major judgments. And sometimes I think that people on a spiritual path, a so-called spiritual path, of course we're all on spiritual paths, most people just don't know it, but if you're on a consciously chosen spiritual path, you sometimes go into this notion which is not of God, which is you've been reading these books long enough, you shouldn't have that problem by now. Right? And the way you do that towards other people also is, well, if they're so spiritual, why do they have that problem? Now, let's look at what's really going on here. We know that Sandra Ray has said, love brings up everything unlike itself. The Course in Miracles says you would not be perfect or you would not be here. That means what that seems to imply anyway is that if we were already totally aligned, perfect minds, with absolutely nothing left to work out, we wouldn't have even taken the body. But we are here in a classroom, as it were. And remember what the Course teaches, the notion of growth in the Course is much like the notion of a kind of physical detox. If you go into a physical detox, stuff that you ate and otherwise digested for the last 25 years comes up, right, in order to be released. Spiritual growth, the transformation of the personality is the same way. All of our dysfunctions, all of the things in us which are not the coolest, not the best way, don't come from the highest place. There's ways that all of us, and the older you get, in a certain way, the worse it gets. The ways in which you have grooves in your personality, which are the way that your personality has just settled into a habitual way of dealing with something that does not come from the highest, does not come from the most magnificent, but by now has become a mental or emotional habit. So when you seek real love in your life, that doesn't mean that those things are going to stop. Quite the opposite. It means you're going into that detox, where the Course in Miracles says those things will actually be aroused. See, the Course in Miracles says that the Holy Spirit does not respect your comfort zones. If anything, you sort of bust your comfort zones. And think why that would be. Your comfort zones means, if I have a comfort zone, that means here's a box. This box means the territory within which I can behave tranquilly. But if somebody does anything outside that territory, I might freak, or otherwise go into malfunction, right? So the Course in Miracles says, why would the Holy Spirit do that with God in your life, which is the same thing as asking to be made perfect, to be made into that totally loving person? Because you see, to ask for a great life, the real point is that you already have a great life, but you don't see it because your energy is obstructive view of all the love that's available to you. So It's not still God healed my life, it's still God healed me. So the Course in Miracles is well. Now that means that you can be comfortable within this box, so the Holy Spirit, the Course says, will bring into your experience everything outside that box. That's why I say when you buy God into love, kiss you off. You ask for inspiration. You see, are the situations where you are not. Come on, that you have developed and that have become those kind of.
Goddamn ancient ass radio. Come on, now do it.
By which you deal with life in a non-functional way. Come on, in order for you to decide the Course in Miracles says, is this worthy of me? And the Course God has a meaningful judgment. When you think that people you don't even know, their opinion matters to you too much, it's like starting to think what it would feel like to think God might look at you and go, I don't like her. Anyway, the Course
Is that people laughing?
Hello.
It's these fucking rubber bands. Here, how about this? It won't even work now. Oh, fuck. It's this rubber band. It's old. I can't believe it even works. Come on, rubber band, work. Work, rubber band. So if you ever have an old VCR or cassette and it don't work, just check these fucking rubber bands. They go out a lot. This one is really fucked. Let's try it now. No. What if you double it up? Okay. Double it up, right? Okay, let's double it up. But it's hard. Okay. It's doubled up. Don't like doubled up. Just burns the motor up. Oh fuck. I just need a fucking rubber band. Let me go look for rubber bands. Fucking rubber bands. Why don't this one work? I got an idea. We'll oil it. Maybe that will work. Okay, we oiled it a million times. Why don't they use chains in these things? Big link chain mechanisms. Not perfect. Okay, there's two rubber bands, and they're both fucked up. That's the problem. Try that. Motherfucker.
There's no websites, not no proper ones that were built here already. So the Course in Miracles talks about these things from yours, which is the course process. The idea of atonement or their education thought that using the only forwards to the head atonement. What the atonement is the correction of our perception. It's the way that the Son of God who has wandered from home.
I'm putting my cigarette in it.
Makes the march back. And the march back comes from the detox when stuff happens in our lives and we have to face the truth about ourselves. So
my cigarette's working.
Get the notion that in a
well, I'm putting my cigarette in.
Fellowship where everybody knows spirits work, that everybody's going to be in this really perfect place. It means everybody's stuff is coming up, just like a love affair. Because that's really what the life of God is, a love affair. And just like nobody makes you crazy, like someone you're in love with.
It's eating the tape. Oh, I know why it's eating the tape. Because I just know. Ew. It smells like cigarettes.
Crazy on a certain level, like getting into God. And that's what the court.
It just ate itself.
Of the world, because the ego mind tells us we're not who we are. You see, we are this perfect loving being, but we're capable of our lives. You're your grades, you are your behavior, you're your mistakes, you're your credentials, you're your last professional success, you're your age, you're your body, you're your money. And it's very difficult to unconditionally love yourself within that, because who has the perfect score on all those things? And not only that, who among us hasn't made mistakes? So some people get this notion of loving yourself really confused, and they say, no, I love myself, I didn't make any mistakes, I didn't make any mistakes. The message of the Course is to look honestly at your life. Of course we've all made mistakes. The point is, it's the function of the Holy Spirit to release us from our errors. Remember,
See,
Buddha
that's
came before Jesus.
Look
The
at
Buddha said that this is a world of suffering. Action, reaction, ID karma. You put it out, it comes back to you tenfold. And Jesus came a few hundred years later. He continued the evolution of theological thought and said, yes, but in a moment of forgiveness, all karma is burned. That's the basic notion. In a moment of grace, you are released from this karmic cycle. So you and I go into this major stuff, oh my God, I did this horrible stuff, oh my God, I did this horrible stuff. The message of the Course, and this is why in 12 steps you have the process of amends, the process of honestly seeing your character defects. This is why in any serious spiritual path, you look at yourself, not so you can feel guilty about it. Your stuff comes up not so you can feel guilty about it, but so that you can be corrected, and you can continue this evolutionary journey of making it to the highest place that you're capable of being. That's why the Course says you're not perfect, or you wouldn't be here, but it is your mission to become perfect. Now, sometimes we talk a lot here. Sometimes people bring up things and we'll say, have you done a page 83? We talk about how, for a lot of us, this is our most well-worn page in the book. And what page 83 is about is those situations like I was talking about at the beginning of the talk of you just did something and you just cringed to think about it. It might have been 10 minutes ago or 10 years ago, right? Now, sometimes we'll go into something where you know you blew it. You know if you used a different tone on the phone in the conversation, it would have been different. You know if you had made a different decision and gone there instead of there, it would have been different. You can see your own mistake. But then you go into, it's true. If I had been wiser, if I come from a more loving, more wise, it would have been different. But, and there's the ego coming in, it's too late. Well, the amazing thing about the Holy Spirit within us is that the Holy Spirit is the notion of God's internal God within us. And the place of God is a place beyond the thought system which rules this world. And as Einstein said, time and space are just thoughts we're having. Time and space are the constructs of this thought system. But we can hold to more than this thought system. So the notion of the Holy Spirit is that it's beyond time and space. Therefore, the Holy Spirit can work retroactively. Because the Course in Miracles says that there's only one real time. And that's where linear time, as we know it, hooks into God's time, which is eternity, and that's in the present moment. Everything's happening in the present. Your past lives and your future lives, everything are happening in this moment. The Course's time is just a thought that we have. So what happens is that a lot of times, and sometimes once again, the older we get, we think that we've blown it. Now this is real important because we're coming into December, coming into Christmas, coming into New Year's of the 90s. And what the whole thing has got to be, and I don't want to digress too much into it, but this is sort of context for us. This is it, guys. This is it. We're the generation that makes the choice, not our children. Because we don't have 15, 18, 20 years to wait. What you and I awaken to in the next 10 years is going to determine what happens on this planet. The scientists say we have a choice, but the greenhouse effect the way it is now, the only argument that the scientists are having right now is the effect of the environmental irreversible. Or 2005. That's the big argument. So this is the kind of urgency that we're talking about. talking about you and I making that, as Einstein says, the heaviest thinkers of the last century, and before that, have talked about how the only thing that will save the planet at this time is a radical shift in thinking. A radical shift in thinking. Because all of the problems on the planet are just symptoms of the problem. They're symptoms of our thought structure. And our thought structure does not put love first. Every problem in this world, as we say all the time, is because we don't love one another. The only reason that there is a greenhouse effect is because
I need another rubber band. I need another rubber band. Yeah, listen to the shitty shit. I'm gonna find more rubber bands. It sucks. It really does. It didn't even work. Now I got it to work, but it still sounds like shit. Come on. Quit fucking me around with this shit.
In a loving world, once we knew that those hydrofluorocarbons or fluorohydrocarbons, I always get it mixed up, whatever those things are, in styrofoam and stuff like that, as soon as we know that that stuff manufactured into the air was dangerous, a truly loving, conscious generation would have stopped manufacturing those things that day. That's it. There is no question. There's no way money would have been put before. Same thing with hunger. All these people, 35,000 a day dying of hunger, but there's no dearth of food on this planet. The problem is not hunger. The problem is that we don't put love for one another and feeding the hungry first.
we could go on and on down the list, but we already know if we can answer something like this is the problem with this world. We don't love one another.
Why was it working so well?
No, it's not difficult to love the world when we hate it.
What the hell happened? Oh, I see. Okay. Let's see. It's coming undone or something.
Understanding God for ourselves is so important. So what happens is you and I, the way that you and I, the Course in Miracles says no one's special. We're all special and no one's special. We all have a capacity for growing.
How about if I double it up again? feeling that could work. E.T. for Elliot.
The Course in Miracles says that the talents that you now possess, are a shadow of what you're capable of, no matter who you are. And what great geniuses like it's not that they have a genius that I don't have. The Course says they access a genius which is potential within themselves, right? But you will. Everybody and everyone on this earth, and all you do is to be critical. About our achieving our greatness. It's not enough for a few people to achieve their greatness. It's about a rising up of the whole human race. And we can only start with ourselves. But it's real difficult to get to this point to allow yourself to shine when you hate yourself. Everybody goes around these days talking about you don't think you deserve it. Well, I used to hear people say, the problem is because you don't think you deserve it. But that didn't help me. It helped me out of it just to know that. The real point was to know, well, why do I not think I deserve it? And the message of the Course is because you don't realize who you are. No matter what you have done, you are the perfect child of God. That's not only true of you, it's true of everyone. You are just like everyone else. No one is a guilty sinner. No one. And everybody, and you look at your own life, this is where it's easiest to really see. You can, any event in your life where you really messed up, if you're honest with yourself, wouldn't you have done better if you'd known how to get what you wanted in that moment and done it differently? In that moment, wouldn't you have done it better if you had been clear to do that? Of course you would have. So then what happens is that when wonderful things start happening in our lives, but we don't think that we're wonderful people. And when those wonderful things happen in our lives, we don't allow them to blossom. We don't allow them to blossom because wonderful things seem foreign to our system. Just like if I ate a piece of metal, I would immediately, my body would go to throw it up, to regurgitate it because it's foreign to my system. Just like if an organ is transplanted, it might be rejected if it feels foreign. And so if you think that your mistakes make you a bad person, then anything good that happens in your life will feel foreign to your system. Because you have this urge against yourself. So that means it's not, as we say, all the good. The problem in most of our lives is not that you haven't had opportunities. The problem is that you have blown them. Right? If you're honest with you, and that's because of the practice. By playing small. You are not serving this world right now by playing small. Remember, the Course in and a modesty, humility, and arrogance mix. We humble and say, you know, I'm just this person, and that's not humble. Was arrogant, were anything ugly. Have you made mistakes? Yes, you've made mistakes. So guilty about some of the mistakes that we've made. What the Course in Miracles says is there's something that you will hold on to because it makes you feel guilty. The Course says that you merely go back in your mind.
Monday, October.
Spirit now. Once again, is burned. The Course in Miracles says this. Whenever you hope it is because you reflected a lack of love to one of God's creations, i.e. you're feeling guilty, there was something that you did.
Express and many more. And register on site to win a $100 Kroger gift card.
You become defensive because you expect attack. The decision to react in this way is yours and to therefore be undone. The process of the atonement is the process of undoing. Remember, as we enter into the 90s, as we enter into our full greatness, it's not about creating your greatness. You're great already. It's not about creating the perfect being. You're perfect already. It's about undoing this like paced up personality that we've taken on. It's not even the real us. That's why the spiritual path is not about learning, it's about unlearning. The Course says, the decision to react in this way is yours and can therefore be undone. It cannot be undone by repentance in the usual sense, because this implies guilt. I.e., I feel bad, I'm going to to allow yourself to be guilty. Not the best in you, and maybe it's things in you that you've known needed to be different for a long time, but you just don't seem to get over. Decision cannot be difficult. This is obvious if you realize that you must already have decided not to be wholly joyous if that is how you feel. Therefore, the first step in the undoing is to recognize that you actively decided wrongly, but can actively decide otherwise. Once again, like I was saying, the Course in Miracles says, choose again. You were not perfect in that situation. You were not loving in that situation. You hurt somebody's feelings in that situation. It's not going to help God or them or you to go into this I'm so terrible routine. Rather say, you know what? I got it wrong in the past, but the past doesn't really exist. Time is about always starting over. The Holy Spirit works retroactively. I can decide again. Choose once again. The major sentence in the Course. Be very firm with yourself in this and keep yourself fully aware that the undoing process, which does not come from you, is nevertheless within you because God placed it there. Your part is merely to return your thinking to the point at which whatever it was in your life, go back to the moment in which you did it. Go back in your thinking to the point at which the error was made and give it over to the atonement. Your errors. Say this to yourself as sincerely as you can.
remembering that the Holy Spirit will respond fully to your slightest invitation. I must have decided wrongly because I'm not at peace. I made the decision myself, but I can also decide otherwise. Remember, the Course in Miracles says salvation, i.e. being saved from your own negative thinking, is always a matter of mental decision. I want to decide otherwise because I want to be at peace. Everybody with me so far, and whatever your stuff is? I do not feel guilty because the Holy Spirit will undo all the consequences of my wrong decision if I will let Him. Once again, I do not feel guilty because the Holy Spirit will undo all the consequences of my wrong decision if I will let Him. I choose to let Him by allowing Him to decide for God for me. And that's it. We go back to that moment we say, I get it. I didn't let God run the show, i.e. I didn't let the love in me run the show. We can go into all the reasons you didn't, your mother, your father, your past life, whatever. It so doesn't matter. The point is, that was the point at which you were blocked. It's your wall. You didn't know how to be the best. You go back to that moment and say, it is in that place in my personality I desire to be set free. And that's what it means to atone for. Now, in the Bible and other spiritual scriptures, it says, God loves the sinner. Now, what does that mean to say God loves the sinner? You know, when Rajneesh was asked that question, why, Bhagwan, does the Bible say that God loves the sinner? His answer was, they tend to be more interesting people. What the Course in Miracles does say, which is also in the Bible, is the story of the prodigal son. There's something very interesting here about the places in our personality where we have strayed. This is a major argument. He's right. We tend to be more interesting people. What does that mean? Well, you know how when you break a bone, the place where that bone heals. Have you ever been in a relationship, and I know you have, with someone, a friend? Connection that you have that argument says the holiest spot on earth is where an ancient hatred becomes a present love. And when I used to hear that line, the holiest spot on earth is where an ancient hatred becomes a present love, I used to think in terms of relationships between people. Or I would think how great it will be when ancient hatred in Ireland or Israel becomes a present love. An ancient hatred becoming a present love can also be inside yourself. When ancient hatred becomes a present love, there is nothing like the personality which because they went to hell and back. Well, what makes them interesting? Not that they went to hell, but that they came back. While they're still in hell, they are some of the most boring people. Right? But people who have gone to hell and come back, there's assault. And that's why this generation, remember we discussed this here, when I first realized that the depth of my being, that it's up to this generation, this is it, to save this world, to make the decisions that will save this world, I was so depressed. I thought, oh my God, I know these people. I'm one of them. This is not good. This is not good. Because we have been the most self-indulgent, probably the most spoiled generation, at least in talking about our culture. And yet, the truth of the matter is, the very things which have been our self-indulgences, look at something like drugs and alcohol. Look how drugs and alcohol, for so many people in this culture, has been the doorway to a real church experience. Because the 12 steps are like probably the first indigenous American church, truly church in the real sense of the word. So sometimes it's our digressions. It's our transgressions. It's the places in us which have the most strayed from the greatest self-love and the greatest love of other people, which have then become the places where we are the most healed. And that's because when we gave our lives to God and asked Him to free Him from our errors, He didn't answer with hitting us over the head and punishing us. That was never His intention, and that's not the way God works. God's only answer to that is, I'm so glad you're coming home. That's why the father and the prodigal son, the son who strayed, when he comes home, the father is so glad to see him. And the other son said to the father, well, why aren't you so glad to see us? And he says, because you never left. there's a power which actually doesn't sound so great, but it's in the Bible, it's in the Course, and so it makes sense. There is something about going away and coming back. Not doing something, by the way. You know, would say our mother's purpose to do. So just simply because my mother said to do it, you do the opposite. Right? I mean, if somebody said no, you figured it was some lascivious pleasure back there, and they just didn't want you to have it. Right? So you would go into every door marked no by conventional standards. But you go through enough of those doors, and you decide not to go through them anymore. Not because Mommy told you not to, but because you've been to those hotels and it didn't work. You went through those doors, and you decided through your own experience. You know how much value there is in that? You know how much value there is in the parts in your personality where there's certain places you don't go anymore because you choose not to? Because you've gotten over it. You know what? There's nothing that can be more contributive to big people. So it's important, I think, that we actually honor our errors and to honor the things in your life that come up that point them to you, point them out to you. But to know in those situations and those times where you're feeling so guilty and you're feeling that you've messed up in your life, there is no such thing as having messed up too much in your life. We need everybody here and everybody in this world to really get that there is nothing humble about thinking you're less than great. It's like when Carl Rogers said to his students, how many of you here are the great psychiatrists of your generation? And nobody raised their hand. And he said, how many of you are the great theoreticians of your generation? Nobody raised their hand. He said, how many of you are the great artists of your generation? Nobody raised your hand. He said, if not you, then who? There's nothing humble about that. What's humble is to say, of ourselves, we're nothing. But as vehicles for a power greater than ourselves, all of us have the same capacity. We're just vases. It doesn't matter the shape of the vase or the form of the vase. What matters is the flowers that go into the vase and the water that comes through the vehicle. But our self-hatred keeps us from owning that power can be used. And if you think that because of your errors God wouldn't want to use you, it's quite the opposite. And in that, it's wonderful to read the stories of the great saints. To read the story, I mean, the idea, you know, once again, we have these notions of the saints and in all the religions as being people who just, you know, came out great. Often they were people just like you and me. People who we feel that certain ways in our lives we haven't been the highest. But know that there's some way in which we can be used now. You don't say, I'm going to make myself perfect and then say, God, use me. It's not like that. God is the process by which we become perfect, but religion has set it up so we're afraid to show ourselves to God because we're not perfect. He says to the Course, don't try to purify yourself before coming to me. I am the purifier. So the point is for you and me to give ourselves to God exactly as we are. Dear God, I'm metal. I'm not gold. But if you can use this, do so. It's not like you get it all together and then give your life to God. What does that mean? Giving your life to God just means giving your life to that alchemical process by which you become the powerful force of love that you're capable of being. And those doors of love open the doors of all your talent, all your greatness, all your brilliance, all your charisma, all your intelligence, all your everything. It's all just in their brain cells waiting to pop open. And what we say is, God, if you can use me. And then, remember that line, it's in the Bible, it's also in the Course, it's a traditional Christian concept, actually, called the gifts of the Holy Spirit. The gifts of the Holy Spirit means you don't wait for all your talent to get together and then you give your life to God. You give your life to God and all of a sudden your life starts falling together. All of a sudden, certain talents are there. Not that they weren't there before, but you had blocks to the expression of them. All of a sudden you start seeing just how beautiful you are. But if you've already decided against seeing how beautiful you are, this doesn't work. It doesn't work for God. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve the people you've transgressed against. And it doesn't serve anything in this universe. And then, when you do something like page 83, and you are willing to atone for your errors, and you are willing to take a good look at the mistakes in your personality, and hopefully knowing, remember that anytime you see somebody else, in terms of judging other people, anytime you see other people who are not the highest within them, the issue is never, you know, as they say in all spiritual programs, you don't focus on another person's lessons, you focus on your own. And if somebody is not the highest around you, the issue is not what is their lesson, the issue is what is your lesson. And in that case, your lesson is, am I tempted to judge them? How judgmental am I? Or how tolerant am I? How patient am I? Right? So it's always, what is my lesson? And when you see what those errors are in yourself, don't think that that means you're not spiritual. That means you're very much on the spiritual path. This is the elbow grease. This is the dirt under the fingernails of spiritual renewal. That all that stuff is coming up in order that you might get rid of it, that you might release it. And there is no lost time. I've mentioned here before, and I know I'm not the only person in this room who's felt that. You know, I felt like there was a whole sort of decade that I sat it out, you know, in this life. And it was very interesting because I saw so many people who in so many ways in their lives tended to be going on this upward swing. And I didn't. You know, I just kept myself down in every way, it seems. I mean, that's your sort of major sort of experience of yourself. Once I got it on some level, I just took an immediate vertical ascent. And I caught up with where I used to be, or would have been had I done it the other way. Once you allow love in your life, it has a radical effect, a radical curative. So there's no way, you know, we've mentioned here before, no one can counsel a recovering addict like a recovering addict. Your mistakes in your life are actually used. You have compassion in an area where you've messed up. You have a lack of judgment in those areas, or you should once you've cleared it. So if you still feel guilty about something, then you're more judgmental about people still stuck in that error. But once you have forgiven yourself, once you have given this over to the atonement and asked to be healed,
I found this in the trash. I like self-help, and I was digging in the trash, and it's like, boom. And it's kind of cool, like, shit found in the trash. I've always wanted to fix a radio. This is my old radio from the 90s. I mean, like 1990. And it was working for a second, like it was working perfect, and then now, so it's, for some reason something lined up and it was working perfect, and it's not perfect now, because it sounds like a half man, half woman voice or something. It's not how she sounds. It's just, I'm trying to let it break in. Maybe it'll like click back in, and because it did it for a second. For 1 second it sounded perfect, like whoa. But for something that I just found in the garbage, I kind of actually think it's pretty cool. That's why since I like it, I decided I'll play, even though I knew I didn't know if I liked it or not. I found it in the garbage, and I said I'm gonna make a video playing all of this unless I can't stand it. But that seems okay. I mean, the radio sucks, but I figure I'll keep playing with that too. I kind of like how I just dug some old radio out and I'm trying to make it work. I think that adds to this whole weirdness. Let's keep listening.
when you see other people in that same place, then you really feel moved to love them. Not to judge them, but to love them as you feel that God has loved you. So this is an important healing, an important cleansing when your stuff is made so clear to you, whatever it is. What I'd like to do is end with a prayer.
This is the switch.
From
like radio.
These things in your personality, these things that you've done in your life, whatever it is, you feel like your father died and you never told him how much you loved him. She doesn't understand that person died. No one died, remember. They can hear you now. You can make amends to a person who's not on this earth anymore, because the message of the Course is that the body died, but they didn't die. The body is just a suit of clothes, and they can hear you now. There's absolutely no error that you have ever made in your whole life. There's absolutely...
I'm putting things on there to test. Apparently when it's getting staticky, it just vibrates when there's no voice. But if it's not staticky, it won't vibrate when there's no voice, you know. So when her voice goes, it's like shh, and then it stops. When her voice stops, it stops. But if it's staticky, it's like I noticed the radio don't have that. It don't have the See, I just messed it up. I just like different shit. Seeing what people put out there. Sometimes, like, the weirder it is, more likely I'll look at it just for a minute to, like, weird myself out. And to kind of, like, toughen your, like, what if he's seen that in real life? Like it feels like it could be anything. From a puzzle to, like, a dead body. An old radio. And it's the internet. It's the cool thing. Like, what? What is this? What?
There's no place you're thinking, well, I could never make it now because I didn't go for my education when I should have, and now I can never do it. Whatever it is in your life that you regret or that you don't like. Is there anybody who can't think of anything? All right. Then we're going to go into this prayer together, and we're going to ask that do for ourselves, that we be given the act of grace through God's divine action, the experience of divine forgiveness. You know, there's a place in the Bible where he talks about how, we got it wrong, we're contentious people. And then he's going to let you gnash your teeth every day. A lot of gnashing for whatever reason. But the older you get, the more you relate to the concept. So he says, you're going to gnash your teeth for 3 days. And this is something extraordinary. God says, I'm not like you. I could never totally turn my face away from the child of my womb. So after 3 days of letting you feel this, i.e. conscience, that's the meaning of conscience, because the Course says discomfort will be temporarily aroused. What that means is that when you've messed up, you'll feel it. But after a while, going on into the guilt does not help. After 3 days, allow it 3 days, God says, he says, I will turn my face back to you. And then for my sake, I will lift you up even higher than you were before you left me. And that's what we want to remember. That we will actually, through the divine act of God's grace, be lifted higher than we were before. All he asks is that we be aware, that we be willing to atone, that we be willing to walk not as we walked before, that we be willing to teach, i.e. demonstrate with our own behavior, the person who has learned better. We've been taught this notion of a judgmental God, and the Course says we've just projected that onto God because we're so judgmental. God doesn't think that way. God is incapable of that. His only notion to us, as we bring him tonight, those things within us which are not the best, is that he's so glad that we finally came to talk about this to him inside our hearts, because now the work can be done of freeing us from our errors. Does that make sense to everybody, at least intellectually? Okay, then let's do it. If you want to the hand of the person who's next to you. We see in the middle of our mind a little ball of golden light. And we watch this light as it begins to grow larger and larger, until now it covers the entire inner vision of our mind. And with the power of our shared thinking, we invite our dearly beloved elder brother.
It says,
to enter into the sacred space within some of us here, he appears as Jesus. And now, as we stand before the Holy Spirit, in whatever form feels right for us.
It's eating the tape. It just ate the tape. That's pretty normal for this thing. Skyscrapers, they go up, but they go down even farther, and a lot of them have underground rail systems like subways, but they got the new vacuum tube. But any building, you know, it might go up 100 floors, and a lot of people don't know they go down 100 floors. A lot of secret hospitals and all kinds of stuff. Like, I remember, you know, I was like in this hospital, and I was like, I bet it goes down, and I was trying to figure out a way how to get it to go down there. Like maybe I'd see something, you know, and that's what I did. I was like hitting buttons, and it did go down like forever, you know, like 100 floors. And then I get down there, and they're like, "You're not supposed to be down here. What the hell's going on?" And it was all weird. Like, it was almost like there are people in alien suits, and they're like holding up these things, and they're all like just talking about all this weird shit, and they're like, "You're not supposed to be down here," and I'm like, "No, I'm with this other person over here. They brought me down here," and they're like, "No," or whatever. It was, I don't remember the whole thing, but it was really weird. And then like the very next day it like happened again or something, and I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm convinced these people are fucked up. So I had to like go there for some stupid reason. But I knew, like, every time I went there, I just fucked with them and was like, "Is there a basement here?" And they're like, "No, there's no basement." I'm like, "Well, your elevator goes up, there's no basement." And I'd always ask about the basement. They're like, I was like, "When you go outside, like," I'm like, "the elevator says like 10 floors, but when you count, there's only 8. You know?" I'm like, what's up on the 10th floor? There's no 10th floor. It's like the basement or something. And they're like, there's no basement. They're like, it's in our other building. And then that's the thing. It's like the two buildings. One of them they didn't even say had a basement. It had like a huge one. And they wouldn't even admit to it. And then the other one, they're like, yeah, it's got a 1-level basement. And it's like, no, it had an even bigger one. Then you'd go like through these corridors, and it was just really weird. They're like, you're not supposed to be down here. And then I had to go there, so I knew, like, just watch out for weird shit. One day these dudes came in, and I was sitting in the waiting room, like, it was like doctors I had to go see because I was like sick or something. And these doctors came in, they're like, you need to push. There's a doctor like right in the waiting room, and he's like, these the pharmaceutical drug industry came in, and they're like, you need to get every one of these motherfuckers on anti-depression medication. He's like, we pay you $100 or something every time you put them on it, or it was a lot more than that, I don't know. And I'm sitting there like, man, do they think I'm like so zoinked out like on the shit that they give me that they think I can't hear them? And I kept looking at them like, and they didn't give a fuck, dude. And they're sitting there saying everything, and I'm looking at them like, and they like don't even acknowledge me, and they're in business suits, and they're sitting there like, you sell these pills and get every one of these, and it was just like Twilight Zone type shit, man. I mean, just the shit, and like that whole place was like that, dude. And I'm like, man, I go here, like, I'm gonna just start fucking. I'm gonna tell these people like straight up, dude. Like, I fucking know you're fucked up, dude. And they fucking knew, man. They'd look back and they'd be like, yeah. So I just would fuck with those people. And so I'd say, like, you gotta watch out. Like in the self-help, they're like, God this, God that, and it's like, you could do the same thing, and you could just take out the word God. You could put anything there. You could be like butt crack. On this radio, I used to use it for my a radio show I used to do when I was like 10. I used to like to play radio show. I thought it was pretty cool. Too bad we didn't have YouTube when we were kids. That would have been cool. I think that's why I even do YouTube, because I used to like play with this radio and be like, this is radio station. A lot of people recognize me, and I don't even recognize them. I figure maybe they see me somehow. I don't know. If they recognize me, somehow the computer's able to read minds, so it could like read their mind that like they seen me and then like feature my video to them somehow. Man, I bet they can do shit like that. I'm gonna play this radio. I'm tired of talking. Let's listen to somebody else talk about some other shit.
We wish we hadn't done or been. But we wish was not the way we are now.
Okie dokie. It's eating tapes, and it's because the spring broke. This tape's almost done. Ah, spring broke though. Oh my god, the spring broke. Okie dokie. That's why these magnets are good to have. You grab shit you can't grab without it. Give me that thing, yes. Okay, where does this spring even go? I don't fucking know. Where'd it go, spring? Oh, I'm gonna guess up there, how about that? Huh? Where's this going? Where does it go? What does it do? God damn it, I have so many keys. I mean, funny. I have to keep all. It must have came from over here. What the fuck? What does it do? Oh. Yeah, that's the thing that's been broke. Well, how did it fix? Oh, fuck. Holy fuck. No, I'm gonna call it fixed. I'm gonna call it fixed now.
And without censor or judgment, we now allow our minds to focus on these things and gently and in peace deliver them now into the hands of the Holy Spirit. Dear God, if we could do these things over, we would. If we could be different, if we could make ourselves different, we would have done that by now. We ask your help, that we be freed from the karmic pattern
constantly generated
I think
by our own
that spring had
lovelessness.
something to do with it.
In the places in the past, we go back to those moments, we deliver them into your hands. We know that you are the principle of total, infinite, divine healing and correction. We needn't feel guilty about those things. We know that you will heal them and correct them now, and undo all consequences of our wrong decision if we will let you. We are willing to do as you guide us within to do. If any particular behavior is needed on the earth plane to carry out the amends. In terms of our personality, we ask you, dear God, to heal us of those places within us we know we'd be better off without. We look at them honestly in this moment. We do not avoid looking at them. We're honest with ourselves. We don't go into why they're there or any of that stuff. We just see it for what it is, and we ask that you shed your light on this darkness within. You are the divine physician who heals us, and we ask that we and every area of our lives be healed, that we might in this moment feel made new, that our lives at this time might begin again. We feel the divine action of the Holy Spirit at work within us, the divine alchemy by which we are transformed from arrogant to humble, from violent to peaceful, from despairing to happy, from fearful to loving, from weak to strong. Dear God, please make us new men and new women, from whom there shall be born a new earth.
New world order. New world order.
Thank you very much. Together, we all say, Amen. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It said it's gonna end. It's probably ending. Now we're gonna flip it. And it ate this side like 10 times, so we'll see how re-aided it works.
Together we all take a very deep breath. We see in the middle of our mind a little ball of golden light.
Oh no, not this part.
We watch this light as it begins to grow larger and larger, until now it covers the entire inner vision of our mind. We see for ourselves within this light a beautiful temple. We see a garden that surrounds the temple and a body of water that flows through the garden. We see that the inside of the temple is lit by this same beautiful golden light. And we're here for we have been drawn together by the power and in the presence of God. We devote our time spent together and all of our relationships to one another, to Him. We ask that His Holy Spirit, which is within us, so guide our thoughts, our feelings, our perceptions of all things, that we might grow to become happier and more peaceful and more loving human beings. Thank you very much. Together, we all say, Amen.
What I'd like to talk to you about tonight is the fact that the Course in Miracles tells us that happiness is a decision that we make. There's an exercise in the Course that says heaven is a decision that I must make. Usually we think in terms of figuring out what would make us happy, and we go for those things. We try to make this happen or that happen because we think that if those things happen, we would be happy. But psychologically what's going on there is that the core belief is that I'm not happy. I'm not happy because that's what, and because I'm not happy, I need this, 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 and this. So the problem about going after those things that we think would make us happy is that they are compensating for a lack that we perceive. And so the core belief is still lack. The core belief is still I'm not happy. So the subconscious will continue to recreate conditions that we will interpret unhappily. So even if we get what it is we thought would make us happy, we're still not going to be happy. And many of us have experienced that. In fact, the Course in Miracles says all of us have. That at some point or another, we got that thing that we thought would make us happy, and we still weren't happy. We could, if we had a computer, and we could look into the lives of every person here, and we could just register what's going on in your life today. And we took every single person, and then we took a vote and of what was going on in lives, and then we also measured every single person, and somebody went up to you and said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you? What's interesting is how unrelated the circumstances might be to who was happy and who wasn't. Because a lot of times we say, I'll be happy when this or that has happened. But the interesting thing that you find out about the happy people when you look at them, they're like species. I like call my happy friends up sometimes. I like, can I just like hang out today? And one of the things I notice about people that I know who have that muscle together, and it is an emotional muscle, it's a discipline that it takes. This idea of really cultivating the ability to be happy does not mean, sometimes I'll say to myself, I can't wait for the day when nothing is going on to make me unhappy. But that's not what life is unless you go live elsewhere. I have no idea where. But if you have any life that's going on that's got any kind of dynamic movement to it or growth to it, and particularly growth to it, because growth works in the way that, the top of one mountain is the bottom of the next. Never seems like you really get to rest on your laurels, do you? You think you have it together in some area, and you're just really sailing, and the universe says, "Ooh, you're good. Can you take that?" There's always something new. So there's always something going on that if you wanted to interpret in such a way that you would feel crushed, you could. So the growth to happiness does not mean that more happy things happen, but so much. Obviously, it's easier to be happy when things are going well. But still, the muscle that the Course in Miracles says we're responsible for is one in which our minds develop the capacity to concentrate on the things that can make us happy today and to hold the things which could make us miserable on any given day in a category which says does not matter at the moment. Because what I've certainly watched my mind do, and I'm sure yours does too, because we're all the same, is if there are 15 things that could make me happy on any given day, and then something to make me miserable, I'll find something to make me miserable. My latest thing is I called my friend Richard and I said, I think I have brain cancer. Now, I have a lot of weaknesses and faults, but I'm not a hypochondriac. That's not usually one of my things. Although, if your sister, I've mentioned to you that my sister is seriously ill, and that has been seriously ill, and it does something to your ego, takes more of a more fertile ground now that my sister has gotten cancer. It's different. But still, that's not my thing to be a hypochondriac. So I called Richard. I said, I had all these reasons for why I have brain cancer. So my friend grabbed the phone and said, she doesn't have brain cancer. I started beating on him. How do you know I don't have brain cancer? And he said, because you had a happy day yesterday. That's why you think you have brain cancer. There's nothing else you could look to. And he pointed out on every given day, and finally I had said yesterday, it was a perfect day except for my fight with my friend Steve, let's say. Well, Steve came up to me at a party last night, and we made up. So guess what happened this morning? I had brain cancer. And when he pointed that out to me, it was so obvious that's exactly what had happened. Because as soon as there was nothing to look to say, this is wonderful, my sister-in-law, my ex-sister-in-law, used to not get along at all with my mother. And the story that my sister-in-law used to tell about my mother was true. And that is that one one day, my ex-sister-in-law had spent the whole day, she had bought a store, children's books, and she was painting the store all day. She was remodeling and doing all, you know, to fix up the place. So late in the afternoon, my mother came to visit to see it. And so my ex-sister-in-law said, "Well, Mom, what do you think? Isn't it great?" And my mother said, "I mean, that corner over there, I don't think you finished that corner over there," right? So this drove my ex-sister-in-law crazy. I didn't even realize how sick it was because I had grown up around it. But the most potent realization for me was that I had developed that. Whether, as we say here all the time, it really is irrelevant where you got it. The point is that you do it. In other words, there are so many things you could say. The shelves are fabulous. I love the coat of, I love that color that you chose. The floors look good. There are so many wonderful things that you could say, but the mind went right over to one thing that wasn't so good, and that was what the mind focused on. We all do that in our lives to some extent, and when you look at it, maybe not all of us, excuse me if you don't, but if we look closely what that's about from A Course in Miracles perspective, there's a very, very heavy-duty, hardcore ego thought which is behind all this. And that is that the ego is our self-loathing. The ego is our self-hatred. The ego is the resistance that we have within us to being happy. And to see the various forms of hate is very fascinating, because what we recognize is that while we might spend all of our lives going around thinking, God, I try so hard to make things right. I try so hard to make things go well in my life. What we really ultimately have to deal with is the fact that we have made a decision that we're not going to be happy. Or, at the very least, probably even more so, we have made a decision not to be happy. There is almost a cultural bias against it. So let's look at that. Let's look at some of the forms of that takes. First of all, when I was growing up, our generation, you know, I remember we used to walk around college and high school and you'd have like Russian poetry under your arm. You read it and you frowned. You cultivated a kind of artistic, creative frown, because this indicated to the world that you understood suffering. You understood the human condition. Now, the truth of the matter is, your frown indicates that you realize nothing about the human condition, because the highest realization about the human condition is that we are in choice. But that's a very mature understanding. So we got into this thing about how suffering, first of all, suffering is better. Now, Carl Jung talked about how suffering brings consciousness. Interestingly enough, suffering does bring consciousness. Many of us here, all of us actually have suffered in our own way. And most of us, if not all of us, have seen how there have been periods of our life where we can say that I grew from that suffering. But what needs to be considered from a Course perspective is that joy is also an extremely transformative experience. Bliss is a more transformative experience than pain. The issue is we know so little about it. So we know that pain brings transformation because we've been there. We don't know anything about the transformation brought on by bliss because we had had so little of it. Now, if you've ever read a book called Movable Feast by Hemingway wrote about all the great artists that were around Paris at the turn of the century, and that whole period of great painters and great authors, and Fitzgerald and Picasso and Matisse and stuff like that. And Picasso, you know, he was one of the artists that set the tone for the suffering I suffer, therefore I'm great stuff. And just in the last few years, interestingly enough, with the later biographies coming out about Picasso, we see that his art, when he started really suffering, his art did not get better. That actually, when Picasso started really suffering is when you can mark this rather decline in his art. But one of the things that was always so fascinating to me was an artist, one of my favorite artists from that time is Matisse. But in the dialogue and in the writings and all that personal stuff in the journals and the books by people like Hemingway about those artists at that time, one of the really interesting things was that Matisse stood out because he was happy. And even though the whole sort of zeitgeist of that time, you know, pre-wars, the pre-World War, and all the stuff going on in the world was this honoring of suffering, this philosophical, aesthetic honoring of suffering. My art comes from my suffering. Matisse was just standing there saying, I'm happy. Right? And he could, I don't know what you guys are so, and Picasso used to say, Matisse, he's always smiling. Right? But the truth of the matter is Matisse's art has certainly stood up with time. As a matter of fact, Matisse is one of the great resurrection stories. One of the great, the life of Matisse is one of the great stories of how we hold to resurrection in spite of crucifixion. It's a little bit of a digression, but I want to tell you this Matisse story if you haven't heard it before. When Matisse got very old, he got arthritis so badly in his hands that he could no longer hold a paintbrush. Now, imagine, just like Beethoven not being able to hear, imagine if you were, and you are, on whatever level you are, great. But imagine if that vehicle that you think of as the place where you give your gift and experience your gift and experience the joy and the satisfaction that giving gives to you and others. Imagine if that vehicle were denied you. So imagine being a great painter and no longer being able to hold a paintbrush. Now, this is exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about whether or not joy is circumstance dependent. Now, a lot of, in a way, lesser personalities would have just been completely destroyed by that. What Matisse found out was that even though he could not hold a paintbrush, he could hold those little scissors like elementary school children use. And so even though he couldn't paint anymore, he could, using those scissors, cut out color paper. And you've all seen Matisse's paper cutouts because they turned out to be one of the very greatest periods in his art. Most of the pictures of Matisse's color paper cutouts, which were done because he could no longer hold a paintbrush. So he held, the whole idea here is that if we have a space internally that we hold to, that circumstances will come around to uphold the space, the internal space that we have committed to. The ego has it the opposite. The ego says, I will be in that emotional space when I get what I want. I'd be happy if I could hold a paintbrush. But Matisse wasn't going to say he was going to be happy if he could hold a paintbrush, but how interesting that he's someone who was famous for years for going around demonstrating to everyone around him that he had a commitment to happiness. And obviously his commitment to happiness, does that mean that Picasso had things to suffer about and Matisse didn't have things to suffer about? That's the whole point here. No, Matisse's life was probably very similar in a lot of ways to Picasso's life. But there was, for whatever reason, a commitment on his part to be happy anyway. I remember a friend saying to me once, in my life many years ago, he said, you know, Marianne, it's more difficult to smile because, I cultivated that frown. I understood the human condition, right? To recognize that that's true. The work that it...
She understands the human conditioning. She don't really go much into that. She sounds very smart, but like she knows to talk, like she knows, like when you, the first side was like God, 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 God. That's like saying buy into me. You want to buy me, you're buying me, okay, now you're sold. Flip over the disc, and then now it's on, like she's on some total other shit that really rings with me. It's like we define our existence through sadness or something, and she's like talking about that. So it's kind of neat. Like, this is from 1992, so it's like this voice from 1992 through an old radio that I pieced together is like communicating to me on like a different level. Like I pieced things together, found them in the trash randomly, and it just like, it's like puzzle pieces just going, and like, look, it sounds better now. I kind of think it sounds cool. What she says kind of makes sense. It's just, I don't know, it's old. I mean, I used to, when I first got this radio. It's kind of weird and interesting because I was thinking about it, I guess, for some reason. Because of old radios, and it's kind of neat that old memories might come up from looking at an old radio. So I've been trying to, if there's a thing called like memory recall, where you recall old memories and you can kind of get a response in a way. And so I do that. I've been thinking about it too. And I used to listen to old radio, like really old radio cassette. I mean, it'd be like Dick Tracy or I don't know, just something like that. It was like really old stuff. So this kind of like brings me back to like cassettes, and I never really had a cassette. I sold a cassette player. It was cool. So I bought one from somebody for like $2 and I sold it for like $3, and then I kind of wanted a cassette, but I wanted a good cassette to play on it or something. But now I fixed this one. That's pretty cool. So far I had to fix the spring, double over the rubber bands, and then stretch them out. And surprisingly, they're like, even though I doubled them over like twice this size and then stretched them out, they haven't broken. They're from like the 90s, so they might have sagged from age, but I was still working. So I don't think it's perfect, but it really is sounding better. I might be able to put it back together now. Might be a good idea. If not, you'll lose all the parts, and then you ain't getting it back together. And then it ain't really that good, because it'll just break. You could keep it like that. It won't last 10 more years though. Let's keep listening. It's kind of cool. Once I get to here in about 10 minutes, I'll stop. Probably when this side ends, I'll stop this video, post it, make a new one, do that for a little while longer. So tapes don't tell you how long. Guess in maybe 10 minutes, because that's about when I'm going to stop. So let's go.
Thanks to be happy. See, we brought another thing we had, because a lot of us grew up in the 50s and stuff. We thought any smile was a fake smile. So that we really did develop. You know, you used to hear people, and sometimes you still do, I don't want to go to therapy, I don't want to get sober, because my creativity is tied up with my dark side. Right? My angst feeds my creativity. Now, let's look at that, because even though we laugh about it, part of the laughter is nervous laughter, because we do have, you know, the Course in Miracles says, beware the danger of an uninvestigated belief, of a hidden belief. These reasons that we have, all of us, that we just don't think it would be quite right to be happy. And when we say it's not quite right to be happy, the same thing as saying for whatever reason we have a resistance to letting ourselves have joy in whatever form that it might appear. And these hidden beliefs, one of them, once again, this business that somehow our creativity is tied to our dark side. Well, let's talk about that, how that works. Especially creative people, artists say that all the time. But one of the things, as we've discussed here before, a person who is a creative artist, such as a painter or a writer or a musician, is really, everybody's life is the creative life. So when you read the laws of aesthetics, and if you read about great artists and the lives of great artists, they apply to all of us. You might not be a singer, you might not be a writer, but the creative life, as they say in the occult tradition, there is no higher art than living our lives. As a matter of fact, our whole characters, our personalities are like a character, aren't they? That we're always inventing, that we're always drawing for ourselves. Your life is a movie, and you are the producer, and you are the director, and you are the star. Interestingly enough, if you take a script and you give the same script to two actors, this is a perfect demonstration of how the way we play life has very little to do with what happens in the script that we're given. Because otherwise it wouldn't matter who played the part. You can have a great screenplay or a great play, but it's going to make a lot of difference who plays the part, because the actor's going to make decisions about how those same lines are read. Different actors are going to make decisions how that same script is played out. One actor will decide to scream that line. Another actor's going to decide to say that line following a long silence, and then when they speak it will be practically whispering. And that decision, it will be the same line, but the decision that the actor makes will make all the difference in the world. Same with our lives. So we're all creating all the time. And so it's not the script that we're given, but what we decide to do with it. Now, this business about the creative life and how much we need our darkness, our angst, to be part of the creativity that we're into, we've all suffered. Unless you're, I mean, I'm 38 years old, I've known a lot of people, and I've lived a lot of life myself, as we all have. I don't know anybody who hasn't. So we've all seen darkness. I don't know about you. I don't think I need to experience anymore. I have enough to draw on. I have enough memories to draw on. Okay? And this is a big place to get to in your life. To have a commitment to that. I've suffered enough. Thank you. You know, like, you gotta know the suffering of people. You know the suffering of people, right? You really don't need to see the 6 o'clock news anymore. You got it, right? Because it is the same old stuff over and over again. Now let's talk about that relation to being on the earth, being a creative person. Well, if you look at a great movie, or you look...
Man, she even talked about the 6 o'clock news, dude. She's like, I don't have to see the 6 o'clock news.
Novel, or you look at a great piece of art, often they include darkness, but in a way that exorcises it and leads us beyond it to the light. Take a movie like The Mission. Take a movie like Dances with Wolves. They show...
Total, like, 90s movies. I don't know if somebody makes tapes. It's called self-help. Like, why can this person do this, but then I can't? Like, you know, that's what I want to do, but they keep shutting me down, and I'm like, what that I do is different than any, you know. They have to do it in a fucked up way. They can't be like legitimately. They just gotta be like, oh, we just don't like you, that's all. Nobody's allowed to have an opinion unless you're regurgitating what they say. Which is probably what this lady does. That's the thing. That's why she's allowed to do it, because she regurgitates everything. If you're a regurgitator like her, because that's why she's like, God, 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 God. God is holy, God is great, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, fuck. Point to this God. That's the thing. Her first track was like, lie, 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 believe all these lies. If you can believe all these lies, all these next tapes of lies will come so easy. And she's like, I know the conditioning of the self, and it's all, but no, we're not going to talk about that. Because she's an alpha. This is like the alpha thing. So that's why I listen. I'm like, this is the self-help of the weird alpha type deal. I want to listen to this so I know. And she's even like, the darkness and this and that. And that's why it's like counter-dicting exactly what I say when I do my self-help. I'm like, you go from the darkness to the light. And she's even kind of saying like the darkness from the light. This is like from 92. On this old radio. And then she even says like it could be 10 years later and it's normal because time isn't an issue. And she's like, I'm 38. So it's like, she sounds pretty smart for a 38-year-old. I have 8 more years yet. Alright, I don't know, I'm gonna stop it and keep going in the video.